Hello everyone and welcome to another version of our alumni videos. So if you've seen these, you'll know that we kindly ask alumni students to come back and talk to us about their career. I'm laughing because me and Donna have just started this and I called her the wrong name. So that's not a good start, is it? But I'm absolutely delighted to have Donna Holden here with me today, who graduated, we just worked it out in our own heads, in June 2022. So started with us in September 2019, I believe, if my maths is correct. Um, so Donna, thanks for joining us. I know you're super busy and I'm sure you're going to tell us all about what you've been up to and why you're so busy. Not that you haven't been a busy human, you've always been a busy human as long as I've known you. But my first question is, how did you get to study at University Centre Somerset? Why did you choose us and what was the background to your career?
Okay, so I'd been working in early years. Well, I'd done like after school clubs and done sort of like early years holiday clubs and things like that for several years. I'd been working at a preschool for about 12 years, 12, 14 years, most of which of the time I was the early years Senko there. And I decided I had a level 3 and I decided I wanted to upskill.
Mm.
So I actually started off doing a level 4 and then decided off the back of that I'd like to do a degree. So I applied and started with you. I came to the University Centre Somerset because I had a family at home, so it was really, to be honest, it was really convenient to be able to just sort of come 10 minutes down the road rather than actually have to go away to university. And I also felt, I know I could have maybe done it online, but I also felt that having that face to face would be sort of like more motivating for me.
Definitely. And I remember you learning to drive. You learned to
Yeah,
drive, didn't you, at the beginning of your journey, so you could
yeah.
drive to campus?
I did.
Because
I'd held my driving license since I was like 17, but I'd
mm,
always worked locally and I just always cycled. So I hadn't had a need to drive. So I had to get myself driving again. So that was like the first battle really, was getting myself driving again. And we only had a really big vehicle as well. So I really sort of like went for it. But yeah, I had to get driving again in order to come in.
yeah, it seems like you said you'd had a driving license, but there's such big obstacles, aren't they? All of those things, those first journeys, we meet a lot of students who have just passed their test or passed their test when they know us. So that journey and negotiating parking and all of that is quite nerve-wracking, isn't it?
Yeah,
So all of those
absolutely.
things. And people think, because you've been working in early years for a while and you've been out in the field and you've got a level 3 and you're a local, always just go and do a degree. But actually there are some unique emotions that you feel, aren't there, about it trying something new. Do you remember any of that from back in
Yeah,
the early days?
absolutely. I mean, it's you kind of feel as well, because I had to give up, because I worked full time. So in order to do it, I had to give up some of my work
Mm.
hours as well. So you feel like you really are putting all your eggs in one basket, if you like, because I had to give up, yeah, I had to give up some work hours. So I knew that I had to sort of like really give it my all. But at
Mm.
the same time, I hadn't done anything academic for, well, many years. So the big obstacle was getting to grips reading journals and
Mm.
trying to write in an academic style, which was totally new to me and I hadn't had to do before.
Yeah, definitely. That brings me on to my next question, actually. What was your experience like of the degree and studying at UCS?
Yeah, I found it really good. I think because we had a nice small cohort, I found the experience to be really supportive, and I found not just not just the lecturers that were taking us, but also actually other people within the college were really
Mm.
supportive. So like the library staff, for instance, they were always amazing. If you
Mm.
needed to find a book or find something by a particular author, they were always so helpful and willing to help. And also we had sort of extra sessions that were open to us to look at how to write academically and how to do referencing and things like that. And again, I found that particularly helpful, having never had to reference anything before, or write academically. I found it really helpful to take up those opportunities as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting, isn't it? All of those things. Harvard referencing is often something, and you made reference to the journals as well. Just because we've never done it before, it's like new rules of a game, isn't it? And we've never played that game before, so we have to learn the rules of it.
Absolutely. And the
Yeah,
first
go on.
time you read one, you think to yourself, yeah, I need to go back and do that again, because
Yeah.
it makes no sense, but you do slowly get there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's just training your brain, isn't it, to remember to do these things and those academic conventions. And one of the things about degree study and getting to grips with Harvard and journals is that it's supposed to provide you a good like baseline to move towards other academic study. Did it help you, do you think, doing all of that stuff when you moved on to your next kind of level in your education?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, you're expected. So I went on to do my PGCE, and you're expected very much to research and for it to be current research. So again, it means that it's all online. It's not necessarily from a book, although we were encouraged to use some books, but a lot of the things that we had to read was current and up to date. So it's really helpful if you know how to find it, how to search for things, and how to make sense of it once you do.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said as well, it's just about, isn't it? The first time you read it, you think, what is that? And then you have to read it like more than once. And then it's getting to grips with what is a journal and where should I look in it? I don't need to read the whole thing. Actually, this bit might be really helpful and this bit might be really helpful.
Yeah.
Fabulous. So you went on to do your PGCE. So can you tell us a little bit about that journey and where you are now and what you're doing?
Yeah, so my PGCE, I did a PGCE and my QTS, with a specialism in early years. I was really fortunate because by the time, before I'd actually finished my course, I knew that I had a class to go to, which was really nice, which I started in September this year at my new school. So I've almost completed my first year.
Wow.
The PGCE itself was really full on. So
Mm,
anybody that's planning on doing a PGCE, just prepare yourself that it's a full on course. You are expected to be doing reading, writing, research, lesson planning, teaching, all at
mm,
the same time. But it's doable because again, I've got a family, so
mm,
you still have to make time for them. So it's definitely doable. At the time, it is a lot of hard work, and I'm not going to deny that going into teaching is, it's hard work, and you have to really learn to time manage. But again, I think that's something that you also learn when you're doing your degree as
mm,
well, is about time managing and making sure that you make those deadlines. And
mm.
again, especially, so again, going back to my degree, because I worked 3 days a week as well as doing the degree. Again, you have to time manage in order to get everything in, fit in time with your family, and go to work. So again, that stood me in really good stead, I think, for doing my PGCE, because I did find that I met all the deadlines, and I kept up with everything really.
Yeah, definitely. It's the message that we hear time and time again, and over years as well. I don't know if it changes, is that PGCs are not necessarily hard for our students because of your background and what you know and the experiences you've had, but actually the amount of work that you
Yeah.
have to, like you said, it's not just the teaching, it's not just the planning, it's not just the reading and researching, it's all of it together. And it's quite monumental, but it's great to hear that you can negotiate it. And actually, if you've done a degree, it kind of is it a little bit more work than doing a degree, do you think?
Um, um, in a sense, there is less. So there was less writing,
Mm,
less sort of like academic writing as such, because we didn't have to produce as many assignments over the time. But then on the flip side, we then had to do there was a lot of lesson plans, there was a lot of observations, there was, so it was almost a little bit like a vocational course and a degree rolled into one.
Wow, yeah, that sounds really interesting. And they just, yeah, instead of the academic writing, they're assessing you in practice, so much more vocational. But
Yeah.
also as well, because you've got all of that background with all of your experience, I'm sure you were fabulous at it. So tell us a little bit about the job you're doing now. Are you able to tell us a little bit about that or?
Yeah, so I'm a reception class teacher, so really enjoying it. I've, yeah, like I said, almost completed my first full year. I've got a class of 29.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got we have continuous provision. So of course there's always like lots of thinking about, you know, what how they can learn what needs to be learnt through play, and how I can teach them something and then follow that up at a
Yeah.
later date in the provision. So yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Sounds
really
really
enjoying it.
exciting. It does. And also as well, we are on the downward straight, aren't we, with the summer's term? So you are nearly at the end, although it must feel like a million miles away because it's still like
Yeah,
5 weeks away.
absolutely. I was going to say, it's a really busy term. I've been told it will be a really busy term,
Mm.
but hopefully I'm prepared for it.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure
And
you'll
then,
absolutely smash it.
because as well as thinking about the transitions of the ones that I've currently got, I've also got to be thinking about the transitions of the ones that are going to be coming in to join me in September as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And also because you've had a year in the job, you would have presumably tried things, learnt things, and every year we do the job over and over again. It's never the same, is it? It's always different. The children are different, the people are different, what we try and how the routine we do is different. So it's good. I like that about my job, that every time I do it, it's different because I try something different, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, we're always learning, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're always learning something. You try something and you think, actually, that didn't go according to plan, or actually that
Mm.
was really good, but even if it did work out really well, it might not work for your next cohort, because it very
Yeah.
much depends on who they are and what they enjoy and what their interests are.
Yeah, definitely. Fabulous. So just lastly, Donna, have you got any tips or hints for people who are wanting to be a teacher or currently on a degree? You spoke a little bit about time management there, but anything that you wish you would have known at the beginning of your journey that you now know that you'd like to pass on?
um no, I think the only thing I would say is that um like the most important thing, and I found this really helped me, is just read. Like,
Mm,
really read widely, even if you don't think that it's necessarily relevant. Does that make sense?
mm,
You know, just get yourself into that mindset of reading and researching, because it will stand you in good stead for everything, really.
mm.
Because you need, if I was going to say, especially if you go on to be a teacher, but I think in any career, once you've got a degree, there's an expectation that you can read something and not necessarily take it on face value. You're
Yeah.
able to sort of like pick it apart and dissect it a little bit. And I think
Mm,
you're only really able to do that if you sort of train yourself to do that, if
mm.
that makes sense. So yeah, I think my biggest bit of advice would be to read widely, and also to accept any sort of like help. So like I said, with regards to like the referencing things, I believe they were optional for us to go to, weren't they?
Mm.
But I found that it really benefited me, because I think all the way through, my referencing was always quite a strong point. So having come from never doing anything like that before to then needing to do it, I think if I hadn't have done that, I would have really struggled.
Yeah, definitely. Because quite often when we say to students about library support and library help, they're like, "Oh, I don't want to go, but it's a bit boring." But actually, it's those boring skills, learning those boring skills once. It might not be very entertaining to learn how to Harvard reference, but it is just a method. Once we learn it once, we can apply the method over and
Yeah.
over again, can't we? And then we'll always have things where we put the full stop in the wrong place or don't italicize something. But actually, if the method is kind of drilled into your head, you know how to apply it. So yeah, it's really good advice, really good advice. Well, thank you very much, Donna. Thank you for joining me and thank you for giving up your time today. And I shall turn off the recording.